We've been pressing the government for answers, and again, and I blame some of the appointees of the Trump administration because they know these documents exist and they had zero interest in getting them out. They knew what was going on behind the scenes, and none of them were seemingly bright enough to figure out, well, maybe the public needs to know what's happening here. So the other thing that we've been working on, which has had already tremendous results and it's had worldwide attention, is our investigation that we initiated back in March of last year into the Wuhan Institute. And I realized I took a break last week. I was a little bit under the weather. I'm mostly recovered, so don't worry about me. But it occurred to me that I kind of referenced what we found, but I didn't go over and explain what we found in terms of exposing more of the truth about Fauci's dissembling in the funding of the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Now, as you know, we're all of a sudden allowed to ask questions about whether COVID came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, whether it was we were told previous to this that we were not allowed to think that if you raise questions about this, you would be censored on social media. If you said that maybe it wasn't a naturally occurring disease, you were censored. And you were censored in part thanks to people who were funding the Wuhan Institute of Virology. We saw something was up in March of last year. And for just asking questions, as I've talked about before, we were criticized. You had stories in the Washington Post, the Guardian, USA Today, and the New York Times criticizing me, criticizing Judicial Watch, suggesting we were conspiracy theorists for just raising questions about a public official and what government money was going to fund in communist China. So this lawsuit resulted in documents coming out that showed that we were giving more money to Wuhan Institute of Virology than Fauci had admitted to, specifically $826,000 for, quote, bat corona research. He had said it was about 600,000 or so that they were giving. It was at least 826. And on top of that, there was money separately from a USAID, which is another agency, in my view, that should be completely shut down. Millions. I'm going to show you the list and it shows that they knew early on, because these documents are dated. It includes a chart of National Institutes of Allergic and Infectious Diseases funding to the Wuhan Institute of Virology sent on April 21st, 2020 to the deputy director, who's directly under Fauci. The agency funds directed to the Wuhan Institute of Virology are listed on the chart as titled Understanding the Risk of Bat Coronavirus Emergence. So does that sound like something that would be maybe a connection to COVID? Maybe. We didn't hear about that publicly, though, did we? All the nervousness behind the scenes. Because what they were saying publicly was it was almost certainly a naturally occurring virus. But behind the scenes, the emails and documents we have show that they were very nervous about the money, where it was going, and in fact, they were open to it actually having been a virus, a man-made virus, more or less. Gain of function research and all of that. Let me share the document with you. Hold on one second. So this is the chart we uncovered. Look at this. NID subawards to Wuhan Institute of Virology. And it was given through an organization called the Eco Health Alliance, which is run by Peter Daszak, D-A-S-C-A-K, who's the president. And of course, he had gotten $3.7 million over 6 years to all sites, which include, and it wasn't just China, it was Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Myanmar. I don't know about you, but I don't think that we should be funding any of biological research in those countries. I mean, it sounds dangerous to me. Does it sound dangerous to you? But look at this document again. Do you think that the debate about this would have been a little bit different if we had known about this, as opposed to having it been hidden by Fauci's agency? And one of the reasons it's taken so long for us to get documents about what was going on behind the scenes is because the government told us this. It's because Fauci and his top team had to review all the documents before they were released. Very unusual. So Fauci is directly responsible, at least according to the document, for the slow release of these records, at least according to the government. $826,000. And the media picked up on this. It was talked about all over the world. And the only reason it was shut down is because, President Trump, being the type of president he was, he found out it was going on. And he said, shut it down. So this is what Judicial Watch uncovered. And then as a result, there was increased scrutiny of what Fauci was doing. Fauci was put back on his heels. He's now suggested it's a conspiracy theory, that those of us who are criticizing him are all doing it as part of an orchestrated effort. So he's actually gotten a little bit crazier in this area as opposed to sensible. But Daszak has now been kicked out of, or he's had to recuse himself out of this. Lancet is a major medical institution publication, kind of like I compare it to the New England Journal of Medicine, that type of publication in the UK. And there's this commission that is support of the UN that's supposed to look now into the origins. Now Daszak's on the commission, but now he's recused because of the disclosures in part produced by Judicial Watch. So this basic piece of information changes the course of worldwide discussion on Wuhan. It shows you the importance of Judicial Watch's litigation and efforts to uncover the truth about what the government's up to. And what I loved about some of these documents is that, Fauci pretends or says that he knows everything. I mean, he comes across as if he knows everything about everything. Well, one of his top officials, in talking about funding and what these projects were doing, said this about Dr. Fauci. Great info, thanks. Tony doesn't maintain awareness of these things and doesn't know unless program officers tell him, which they rarely do. Since they are across town, they may not see him more than once a year or less. And what is this issue? Understanding the risk of coronavirus emergence. So he pretends that he knows everything that's going on, when in fact his own people say he doesn't really track it. Which is it? Is he on top of it or not? And if he isn't, why is he coming out and saying with such certainty no money went to gain of function research that, as we all know, is so dangerous? Why is it dangerous? Because it takes viruses that otherwise would not be infectious and makes them infectious and potentially dangerous to humanity. And if the goal allegedly is to prepare ourselves that these viruses, if they were to make the likely jump, we would have vaccines and other walls in place to protect us. Of course, the danger is that we won't have vaccines in place if they're released prematurely or get out of the lab accidentally, or because it's the Chinese and they're communists, they're weaponized. So these documents are worth reviewing. I encourage you to read them completely, but I wanted you to highlight that this is the sort of work that is so important. We've been pressing the government for answers, and again, and I blame some of the appointees of the Trump administration because they know these documents exist and they had zero interest in getting them out. They knew what was going on behind the scenes, and none of them were seemingly bright enough to figure out, well, maybe the public needs to know what's happening here. I mean, this stuff is just amazing. I could go on and on reading it, but I encourage you to go to our website. We'll post the link to the documents again and get the word out. The reason why we're now able to write about and talk, that you're able to talk about the Wuhan Institute and its potential links to coronavirus. And I'm not saying that it's certain that the virus leaked from Wuhan. That's not, I don't know if that's the case or not. I suspect it's the case because of the science as explained by people who know science. But I also look at why the Chinese cover-up. The cover-up is evidence that something bad went on. And of course, the left said, well, the Chinese cover up everything. Well, I mean, so if that's the case, why were we giving them any money at all? I suspect I won't be invited to investigate how the Wuhan Institute, how the COVID virus emerged. See, these are the sorts of people that need to be on commissions like this. And so whenever you hear there's a commission investigating something, they never have people like me on, or hard chargers that you know in Congress or elsewhere. They just keep people, they're designed to keep people like us out. I want you to go and look at the Lancet Commission and see if you're confident that those people are people you can trust. I looked at it briefly. Looked like they were a bunch of leftists. So that's my way of saying we're probably never going to find out. I mean, we can presume, but we can never find out for sure where this virus emerged, because there are people with a financial and political interest in covering it up. And secondly, the Chinese have had now more than a year to clean things up, and as if they were ever going to cooperate to begin with. I mean, how naive. So the real outrage is the suppression of questions about this by people who knew the questions were well founded. So that's my weekly update. A lot going on, a lot more happening. We are in the thick of it, and we encourage you to support our work. These successes are impossible without your support. They're only because of your support. We don't get government funding. Fauci doesn't fund us. We don't get money from the Chinese communists. We're not getting any COVID emergency Recovery Act money from the Biden administration. We rely on the support of people like you. So I encourage you to support our work. If you like what you hear, you want more of it. But even if you're not supporting our work, one thing you can do, and I know everyone can't support our work, is get the word out. Like this video, for instance, mentions COVID. As a result, it will be suppressed. Facebook makes it harder to share information related to COVID, even if it's accurate. So the one thing I'm asking each and every one of you to do is to, if wherever you're watching this video, is to like it, or say, whatever it is you need to click to show satisfaction and approval, comment and share it. And specifically on Facebook, they'll place hurdles to you to share it, because they'll put a warning message up there saying this talks about COVID. You sure you want to share it? I forget what the language is. Same on Instagram. I don't know if it's the same on YouTube. And just even the mere label suppresses people's interest, because it makes people nervous that there's something bad that's being said here. I'm talking about government documents, and Facebook will suppress it. And every major platform will. And we're not leaving the platforms, but the point being, it means you have to do extra work to get the word out. So support our work and share our work. So that's your task, and I hope you follow through.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.